What happens when a man dares to wrestle with the divine? What if the struggle between destiny and deception wasn't just a story from the past, but a reflection of our own souls? For centuries, the story of Jacob has captivated believers and skeptics alike. A man born second but destined for first. A man who deceived, fled, dreamed, wrestled, and in the end, was transformed. Could you live a life filled with mistakes, yet still be chosen by God? This is a story of betrayal and blessing, exile and encounter. A story that asks not just who Jacob was, but who we might become. You think you know the story of Jacob? Think again. Stay with us to uncover the truth that reshaped history, and don't forget to like or share if this message speaks to you. Even before Jacob took his first breath, the battle had already begun. In the quiet womb of Rebekah, twin boys stirred. A conflict so intense that she cried out to God, and the Lord answered with a prophecy that would flip the natural order upside down. 2 nations are in your womb, and the older shall serve the younger. This was no ordinary sibling rivalry. It was a divine foreshadowing of a story where human will and heavenly purpose would collide. Esau was born first, red, rugged, and wild. Jacob came next, grasping his brother's heel as if trying to pull him back, even then fighting for position. His name, Jacob, would come to mean heel grabber, but also supplanter. A destiny had been spoken. But destiny never comes without a cost. As the twins grew, so did their differences. Esau became a hunter, a man of the fields, strong and impulsive. Isaac, their father, loved him for it. He was the son that made him proud, the type who brought home game and glory. Jacob, on the other hand, was quiet, a man of tense, thoughtful, calculating. He spent his days near home, and his mother, Rebekah, saw something in him, something the prophecy had hinted at. In that home, love was not shared equally. One parent favored the wild, the other, the wise. And so the seeds of division took root. One day, Esau returned from the hunt, exhausted and famished. The smell of lentil stew filled the air. Jacob saw an opportunity. "Give me some of that red stew," Esau demanded. But Jacob, always the strategist, replied, "Sell me your birthright." In a moment of weakness, Esau agreed. Over a bowl of stew, he gave up the privilege of the firstborn, inheritance, honor, spiritual authority, all tossed aside for temporary hunger. It was a trade that would echo through history. And yet, it was only the beginning. Years passed. Isaac, now old and blind, prepared to pass on the father's blessing, a sacred rite that couldn't be undone. Rebekah remembered the prophecy. She knew Esau would be chosen if they did nothing. So she hatched a plan.
"Dress like your brother," she told Jacob. "Let the old man bless you instead."
With goat skins wrapped around his arms and Esau's clothes on his back, Jacob stepped into the tent. Isaac was suspicious. "The voice is Jacob's," he said, "but the hands are Esau's." Still, he gave the blessing, words filled with power. "May God give you the dew of heaven. Be Lord over your brothers. Cursed be everyone who curses you." It was done. Moments later, Esau arrived. Too late. The cry of Esau shook the house. "Bless me too, father!" But blessings, once spoken, could not be undone. Esau's sorrow turned to rage. "I will kill my brother," he vowed. And Jacob fled, a fugitive from the very family he had manipulated. But as he ran, God was not finished with him yet. Alone and afraid, Jacob found himself under the stars, using a stone for a pillow. It was there, in the stillness of the night, that heaven opened. He saw a ladder, stretching from earth to sky, angels ascending and descending, and above it stood the Lord. "I am the God of Abraham and Isaac," he said. "The land you lie on, I will give to you. I am with you and will keep you wherever you go." Jacob awoke in awe. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He called the place Bethel, house of God, and made a vow. For the first time, his relationship with God became personal. The deceiver was beginning to believe. But the journey was far from over. Jacob arrived in Haran, the land of his ancestors, tired, hungry, and unsure of what came next. But destiny wastes no time. At a well, he saw her, Rachel. The moment was instant, magnetic. She was the daughter of Laban, his uncle, and in Jacob's heart, she was worth anything. Laban welcomed him with open arms, but behind that warmth was a mirror of Jacob himself, clever, shrewd, and always calculating. Jacob offered to work 7 years for Rachel's hand in marriage. 7 years of labor passed quickly, but on the wedding night, under the veil and darkness, Laban made the switch. Jacob woke not to Rachel, but to Leah, her older sister. The deceiver had been deceived. Furious, Jacob confronted Laban. "It is not our custom to give the younger before the firstborn," Laban said, without irony. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years, for the woman he truly loved. 14 years of service, 2 wives, and soon more than a dozen children. But with every child born, so too was born in secret. But Laban pursued him. There, on the hills of Gilead, the 2 men faced off. Old grievances came to the surface. Deception, labor, wages, and daughters exchanged like property, all laid bare. But God intervened. In a dream, he warned Laban not to harm Jacob, so the 2 men made a covenant, a boundary neither would cross again. Jacob left that place stronger than ever, but his greatest confrontation still lay ahead. Returning home meant facing Esau. Jacob sent messengers ahead with gifts, hundreds of animals hoping to soften his brother's heart, but the news terrified him. "Esau is coming, with 400 men." That night, by the river Jabbok, Jacob sent his family across to safety. And then, alone, he waited. In the darkness, a figure appeared. A man, an angel, God himself. They wrestled until daybreak. Not a metaphor, a struggle of body and soul. The being touched Jacob's hip, and it was dislocated. Yet Jacob clung on. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. "Jacob." "Your name shall no longer be Jacob," he said, "but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed." As dawn broke, Jacob limped away. He had a new name, a new identity, and a new limp, a wound that marked the moment his spirit was changed forever. He had wrestled with God and survived. When Jacob finally saw Esau in the distance, fear surged. He bowed 7 times as his brother approached. But Esau ran to him, not in anger, but in tears. He embraced him. The years of hatred melted in a moment of divine reconciliation. Jacob said, "To see your face is like seeing the face of God." 2 brothers, once torn apart by deception, now stood together in forgiveness. It was a picture of what grace looks like in flesh and blood. Jacob's journey didn't end in peace. He would face heartbreak again, most painfully in the loss of his beloved Rachel, as she gave birth to their final son, Benjamin. He would grieve for his daughter Dinah, dishonored in a foreign land. And above all, he would mourn Joseph, his favored son, believing him dead after a cruel trick by his own sons. Years passed. Famine came. And then the impossible happened. Joseph was alive. Not only alive, but ruling in Egypt. The son he thought lost was now the one who would save them all. Jacob, old, fragile, but filled with awe, made the journey to Egypt. 17 more years he lived, reunited with Joseph, surrounded by his descendants. Before he died, he laid hands on his sons, blessing each one. And to Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, he gave a double portion. Then, at 147 years old, Jacob passed into eternity, but not before making one final request. Do not bury me in Egypt. Carry me back to Canaan, to the land of promise. Jacob's life was never easy. He lied. This story stirred something in you. Let us know in the comments below. Do you see yourself in Jacob's struggle? Have you ever had to wrestle with God? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories brought to life. Until next time, keep seeking, keep wrestling, and trust that God can use even the most imperfect journeys for His perfect plan.